and welcome back to another episode of the Uncharted Media Podcast. This is episode 31, and oh man, we're so close. Avengers Endgame is finally here. When this episode debuts, I'll be seeing it later that night. I'm seeing it Thursday evening. So hyped. This week, because Phase 3 is so massive, this is easily the longest of any of the phases. Not doing any movie news. We're just going straight into the discussion. But before we get into the discussion, Josh, how you doing tonight?
Oh, it's been a day. I'll tell you what, man. But a rewarding day nonetheless. So yeah, man. I like you, and I'm going to be seeing Endgame this weekend, which you gave me crap about because you're like, oh, I was like, I'm gonna just go see it Friday, and you're like, wow, that's really early for you. Are you okay?
Yeah, you normally see weekends at the earliest the weekend after they come out. So, what'd you think of Shazam?
I still haven't seen it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know.
But I assume you've seen almost all of the Phase 3 movies, so let's talk about that. We're going to go through, as per usual, we're going to go through all the Phase 3 films. We'll say our favorite and least favorite films of this installment of this phase or whatever, and then we'll go through all the movies again and give you the important information that we think you're going to need to know before Endgame. Kicking us off is what a lot of people label as their favorite Captain America movie. Me, personally, it's not, but I still really enjoy it. I know you do not, Josh. Captain America Civil War.
Yeah, no, this movie's trash to me.
Is it, though?
Honestly, yes. Okay, so here's the thing. There's only one thing worse, in my opinion, than making a bad movie.
Making Robin Hood?
I mean, we differ in opinion, but and that is making a good-looking movie with a nonsensical plot and trying to pass it off as a big deal.
How is it nonsensical? Just to hear your thoughts on this, because I know you hate it, but I've never really gotten an explanation of why you hate it.
So here, first of all, it's not a civil war. No, there are no consequences at all. Period. Because even at the end of the movie, they still go, oh, okay, well, I guess, I'll still be there for you when you need me. The main bad guy's plot relies a lot on chance and plays a lot off of how Tony and Steve will react to certain things. Now, you can sit here and say, like, oh, well, he knows their personalities so well that he just kind of planned for that. But I don't buy it. Also, I just don't. There's a lot of, so in my opinion, I'd have to go back and rewatch to give you exactly play-by-play why I don't like it. But at the end of the day, it's not Civil War, and a lot like Age of Ultron, it kind of falls short on what it should have done, in my opinion. Like, War Machine should not be alive, period.
Yeah, I will always say that till I'm blue in the face. It definitely, War Machine should have died. You're in a metal suit and you fall a couple thousand feet from the sky, and maybe would have given stakes then. But I definitely disagree. I really enjoy Civil War. Not nearly as much as I like Winter Soldier. I still don't really get how Civil War, a lot of people consider Civil War above Winter Soldier, but I really enjoy Civil War quite a bit. I like the narrative. I like the dynamic. And any movie that gives me an excuse to hate Iron Man even more, I'm okay with, because to me, Iron Man really is the true bad guy of the Avengers. Almost everything bad that happens to the team is his fault in some capacity, but he never takes accountability for it, and I kind of really hate that. And that's kind of why I'm rooting for him to die in Endgame. Civil War is like his second movie in a row where he just does idiotic things but doesn't take responsibility for it. Age of Ultron before this, now Civil War. It's all really comes down to him. That being said, though, I still really enjoy this movie. My main weakness, and it's been a weakness I've not really enjoyed for a lot of his appearances, and that's Bucky. I've never really cared about Bucky as a character. The only reason I even remotely give a crap about him is because Cap cares about him. But as a character, I can't really define Bucky. I can't really describe his personality. I just know him as Steve's friend.
Yeah. No, and I'm with you on that. And part of that's why it doesn't make sense to use him as such a pivotal little pawn in this story. Because really up to this point, he really has just been Cap's friend. And because the big thing is, Bucky's pretty, as far as when it comes to fighting and stuff like that, the dude has it down. I enjoy watching him fight, and I get the brutality of what they're going for through him. But with that being said, I'm with you on that. I think he's lacking a lot of character and a lot of something to get behind him, which is one of the reasons, I think we'll discuss it later, if they're going to pass the torch, which I feel like they are, they're going to have to give us a reason to get behind Bucky.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get into it later, but I don't think we're done with the Bucky character entirely. Civil War still does have that one fantastic standout, though, and that's was it the airport scene? I'm surprised I was blanking on that. The airport scene is fantastic, and the introduction of Spider-Man, which admittedly I hated Spider-Man when we first got that first trailer where he swings in and he's like, "Hey everybody." I don't know what it was, but I hated it, and then I saw it in the context of the movie and I immediately loved it. So I guess that's further proof of you shouldn't always judge a movie by its trailer, myself included. I know I'm still guilty of that. But I love the airport scene, and Civil War, actually more than any other Marvel movie, has my all-time favorite end credit scene, and that's when Peter Parker's back at his home with Aunt May, and he flashes something on the ceiling. Don't see what it is. Aunt May is just like, how big was the other guy? He was pretty big. Huge, even. She eventually leaves. You look up, and what's on the ceiling is the spider signal. I never thought we'd get that in a movie, and it just made me so giddy and so excited to see the future of Spider-Man. And so far, it has not disappointed. But we'll get to Spider-Man later in this phase.
Mm-hmm.
Well, after Civil War, the grand, huge scale character-wise, we definitely scale it back in terms of characters, but we don't scale it back in terms of scale. In terms of interdimensional, weird, trippy, across the universe shenanigans with Doctor Strange. Josh, what are your impressions of Doctor Strange?
So, the movie I didn't mind. I will say the feeling after it felt like, okay, we have to get a reason to bring the time stone into the story. So how are we going to do that? Well, there's Doctor Strange. We have rights to him. Let's use him. Okay, cool. Because really, have you seen the animated Doctor Strange?
I know of it, but I haven't watched it.
Okay, it plays out almost note for note, exactly like the live action one. So, there's definitely some differences, but like the story is still kind of basically the same. And at least from the memory that I have of it. So I was, I guess, a little underwhelmed, I guess, but also like visuals are incredible. And that's something that we kind of really haven't seen, that kind of mind-bending visuals. We haven't seen really since Inception. So, it was kind of refreshing in that way, and Benedict Cumberbatch is always good. So, it happened.
Yeah, I think it's fine. It's a decent introduction to a really obscure character for modern audiences, and Benedict Cumberbatch does a fine enough job. His American accent is still trash, though. He sounds like Hugh Laurie on House. Like, I just don't buy it. Maybe they should have just left him with an accent. It's an okay introduction film. It's definitely not Marvel's strongest, but it is pretty paint by the numbers. We need to introduce Doctor Strange. We need to introduce the Eye of Agamotto / the Time Stone. It's perfectly fine. You have Mads Mikkelsen just kind of being generic introductory Marvel villain he's just really bland and forgettable to the point of I remember what his name is, but do you remember what the villain's name is?
No clue. No,
Exactly.
absolutely no clue.
It's Caecilius, by the way.
Yeah. So, and that has always been one of my gripes, I guess, and with Disney is, and yeah, I get it. We're building to the one big baddie, so you could argue like, why would you have big baddies in, leading up to him? But still, it kind of cheapens the villains themselves to have them off as one-offs. Like, if these guys are so big and so bad, how are they how are they losing after one encounter? Like losing. Most of them are, they die or they're never to be seen again.
Yeah, Doctor Strange also was there more or less just to introduce the villain for the next one with Mordo, I think.
Sure.
It's a Geoforce character.
Sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of forgettableness to it. It was on TV recently. I watched a little bit of it. It's fine. To be honest, it's absolutely one of the weaker films in Phase 3, which kind of does already have some weak films. Not the weakest. We'll definitely get into that one later. But it's a decent introduction. It's kind of what I'm hoping for the character of Captain Marvel. Didn't really care about the character a whole lot in their standalone movie, but I liked them better in a group dynamic. I liked Doctor Strange a lot better in Infinity War than I did in his standalone movie. So I kind of hope that's the same thing with Captain Marvel, but we'll get into that in a little bit. It's fine. The visuals more than anything are what you stay for. Other than that, it's a solid C+ movie.
Yeah, and I mean, there's something to be said when the most memorable and really crowd favorite character is the Cape.
Wong?
No, it's the Cape, bro.
Wong and Cape together.
Okay.
Announced for
Cape,
Disney Plus, please.
Yeah. Just like them reading books together.
No, listening to Beyonce together.
Oh, yes. Either that or Wong's trying, like, just literally an hour and a half of Wong trying to read books and the Cape playing pranks on him.
No, remember in Infinity War when Wong saves Iron Man at the beginning? Iron Man just really quickly says, Wong, you're invited to my wedding. Wong's +1 is the Cape.
Yes.
It's like a Marvel one-shot of just them at a wedding table.
That would be perfect.
Now, we said Doctor Strange is more or less a really strong C+, an average, decent movie. Speaking of C+, average Marvel movies, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Yeah. I would, I would be wary to say C+. I might say B-, just because I do enjoy the characters in this movie quite a bit, and I really like the arc between Gamora and Nebula. I love the way that they've told that story. I don't really care about Ego. I'm not really that big of a fan of Star-Lord, but that's mainly after Infinity War. Infinity War made me not like him. No, yeah, it's a decent movie. I mean, it tries to ride the coattails of the first one, and it does a decent job of that. I think my only complaint is they do definitely try to beat the obscure 80s music over the head.
Yeah, I enjoyed the first film and the first film's soundtrack a whole lot better than the second one. I enjoyed the second one when I was in the theater, but the more time away from it, the more I genuinely just can't remember this movie, and I think it's just kind of okay. I disagree with some of the characterizations. I was not a fan as much this time around, primarily of Drax. This was the start of the downhill journey for Drax's character. Like the first one, he was the idiot that didn't really quite get sarcasm or everything else, but he was still an awesome fighter and a tough character. Volume 2 and every Marvel movie since, so basically Infinity War, he's just been an idiot who doesn't really do anything. He's just there for comedic relief. He's not a well-balanced character. He's just kind of an idiot.
Yeah, and I can't, like, I get the comedy they're trying to go for, but I can't really find myself getting behind his interactions with Mantis.
Yeah, it's just, my mom once said it, and I kind of completely agree. Of Guardians 2 is like if it was written for for and targeted for 12-year-old boys with the level of humor that it's got. Like, it's a lot of just poop humor and just body humor. I'm just like, really, James Gunn? You're better than this.
Yeah, it was almost like, oh, I didn't expect to have to make a second one.
Yeah, there's a lot of jokes that especially Drax says, and I was like, did you really need to throw that in there? For
and it
a
really,
Marvel
like,
movie, just doesn't really fit your comedic tone
here's
that
the
you've
thing.
established thus far.
If you're gonna have somebody make those jokes, which, you know what, that's fine. Okay, let's assume that you still make those jokes. Drax is not the one to make them.
Yeah, Star-Lord is.
Star-Lord or even
Rocket
would be,
but not Drax.
Yeah, that was the thing, was like he was this fighter that was really cool and like would do anything to save the people that he cared about. And you hit the nail on the head, is that he's just become a comic relief, and I'm not really okay with that.
Here's hoping they fix him for Guardians 3, assuming he comes back somehow for Endgame. The one big takeaway, though, that I had for Guardians 2 is literally the only meaningful death in the MCU, with the death of Yondu. It's the only one that's been permanent so far, and it's the only one that I've actually felt anything.
Oh, dude, when he dies, do you feel that? Holy cow.
He may have been your father, but he wasn't your daddy.
And that was one of the things, too, that's why I kind of bumped this up to maybe a B- or just a B, is because of the emotional journey that not Chris, I almost called him Chris, that Star-Lord goes through with the whole father situation of thinking he's found this man that, that he is from the loins of this guy, but he's not at all the father that he envisioned that he wants. And Yondu's been, that story. I enjoyed watching that play out, and I think because of that, the death of Yondu, you definitely feel for it more. But I still say one of the most solid storytelling points in this film is Gamora and Nebula.
Yeah. As a whole, though, Guardians 2 is very, very skippable. And when we come back for things to remember for Endgame, I don't know if there's a whole lot, honestly.
Yeah.
It just kind of feels like it's there.
Yeah. I mean, really outside of maybe... Yeah, we'll get there. Never mind.
Yeah. While Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is very forgettable and just kind of ho-hum, the next MCU Phase 3 movie... Oh, it's a shot in the arm. It's fantastic. Spider-Man Homecoming. Josh, I know you were kind of meh about this. I cannot sing this movie's praises enough. I adore Spider-Man Homecoming, with some minor nitpicks, obviously.
Yeah. So you'll be happy to know that I'm starting to come around. About to get off of my Andrew Garfield kick. So I went back and rewatched the first one, The Amazing Spider-Man, which is definitely like better than the second one.
That's because Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the worst Spider-Man movie made so far. Rewatch Spider-Man 3, and it's not that much of a dip in quality as everyone thinks it is.
Fair enough. No, yeah, you and I have had that discussion. Anyway, at the same time, Tom Holland looks like he's in high school, and you believe that he's in high school. At no point do you go, is that Flash Thompson? Why does he look like a full-grown man? Like, kind of like that. And that's harkening all the way back to, like, the Tobey Maguire movies. Like,
with Deathstroke as the bully?
Yeah. But this movie is very well cast. I never thought we'd get Vulture. I never thought we'd get Web.
I never thought we'd get a comic book accurate version of the Vulture in terms of costume.
Yeah, well, and as comic book accurate as you can.
Oh, he's still got like the ruffle around his neck and everything.
Well, yeah, but he doesn't have
the grandpa
feathers.
pajamas. Yeah.
Yeah. Which honestly, if they would have done that to him, I would have been pissed. Because
Okay, is it just me, or in the comics, does Vulture always look like a cross between Ebenezer Scrooge and Phil Collins?
no, it's exactly right.
He's literally
Um,
flying in the air tonight.
yeah, he quite literally is. But no, dude, Keaton is acting his butt off in this movie.
He's more terrifying when he doesn't have the suit on. The scene where he's dropping the kids off at the dance, oh gosh, that's terrifying.
Oh, dude, totally.
Good old
Oh my gosh.
Spider-Man here to save the day.
He's just like he captures what it, in my opinion, what a villain should be. He's always a villain. Like it's not like he takes time off of being evil, really.
As someone that's typically likes to be a stickler for, well, this is how it was done in the comics, you should learn from that. I like the changes that they made in regards to the Vulture for this movie, of the big plot twist that he's actually Liz Allen's dad. I thought that was a great change to the mythos.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because like all the Spider-Man villains have to be connected to Peter Parker somehow. This one, it was a connection that made sense and added a lot of tension to the scene as opposed to just feeling tacked on.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like his suit as well, both Spider-Man's and the Vulture suit. The Vulture suit is exactly what it needs to be.
Yeah, I completely agree. Spider-Man suit, aesthetically, it's one of my favorite suits of all time, besides Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit, ironically. Um, but with the suit comes actually some of my biggest gripes with the movie, and that's Karen the AI. At times, he just comes across too much like Iron Man Jr. and not Spider-Man in terms of Spider-Man needs to make his own tech because he's a smart kid, that he's resourceful. That's what Spider-Man does. Not have Tony Stark make it for him and have insta-kill mode or immediately know who these people are because he has like scanners in the suit. That's not Spider-Man, that's Iron Man.
Yeah, I did. That is one of my biggest gripes. Is if you're going to give him the quote unquote Iron Spider, at least go full throttle on it and save that for Infinity War, which they kind of did, but it wasn't the same.
Yeah, I've never really liked the Iron Spider suit. If I had to change one thing about Spider-Man Homecoming, and it's something I talked about for weeks leading up to the film's release, because I thought it would happen, and I almost got it right, is you see in the trailers and even in the movie that before the 2/3 mark, Iron Man takes away Spider-Man's suit and he has to go to like the old school one. What I would have done is Iron Man is like, here, have the suit back. Peter turns down the regular suit too and starts making his own suit, starts making the classic Spider-Man suit. Be like, no thanks. I'll get there eventually, but for now, I'll just be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man with this suit instead. Not the one that he used for the final fight, but like the traditional Spider-Man suit, but just not with AI and wherever inside of it.
Yeah, and that's what I think my biggest gripe is about this Spider-Man is it always feels like he's trying to work towards the Avengers and not necessarily I'm just going to be a neighborhood Spider-Man. All the way up until, the end where he actually makes that decision.
But I think that's his arc for this, is realizing that he needs to be a ground hero. That's what he does best. Right up to even in Infinity War, Iron Man's just like, what are you doing here? You shouldn't have followed me. You should be at home. You're supposed to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And Spider-Man has this fantastic line that immediately makes him better than Iron Man of, I can't be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man if there's no neighborhood to go to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he gets it. That's his arc for Homecoming is be Spider-Man, be you.
Absolutely. And I think we're only going to get more of that arc on what it means to be that friendly neighborhood Spider-Man once we get far from home. But yeah, Tom Holland's slowly growing on me. The more I watch him and the more I kind of more information I get about him. But it's definitely a shot in the arm. It's definitely what was needed. I never thought we'd get the shot of Spider-Man holding the fairy together with webbing.
That was great.
That's a fantastic shot.
I never thought
Um,
we'd get my favorite scene in the movie when he gets the building dropped on him, because that's
oh,
from a really
dude,
famous comic where more or less the whole issue
yes.
is Spider-Man
He's
trapped trying to get to Aunt May and more or less has to dig down deep. And I never thought we'd get that in a movie. So when we did, as it was starting to happen, Heather was next to me and I was just like, oh, are they finally going to do the thing? Are they going to do the
yeah,
thing I've always wanted? And that scene is so well done. It
it
defines
really
who
is.
Spider-Man is. This is who he is at his core. This is why he does what he does. He's just a good kid.
Yeah. And I think the only thing I would change would be if we had a scene somehow. If you're going to have Tony involved, fine, whatever. But have a scene that's much like the one in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, where Peter's having that conversation with Miles. Like, part of being the Spider-Man is never giving up and always getting back up. No matter how hard they hit you, no matter how much you take, you always stand back up. And like, if you could somehow do that, and then he's like, and like maybe Tony like says that to him or something, and he's like, okay, Tony, you're being weird. All right, fine, whatever. That kind of makes sense, whatever. And then you pull out the scene where he's getting crushed by the building, and he's like, no, you're right. I can't just like, I can never give up. Like, it's not like this is going to stop.
I don't know. I think the quote that they did use fit perfectly of, if you're nothing without the suit, then you shouldn't have it. Which
Fair enough.
which I hate to admit it, justifies Iron Man 3's existence and overall story arc.
I'll give you that. I will give you that. Maybe I'm just trying too
You're
hard.
hung up
to
on
bring
Into the Spider-Verse.
Hey, don't play that off like a negative, because that is by far the best Spider movie ever right now.
Yeah, Into the Spider-Verse is great until Far From Home comes out.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll
see.
So Spider-Man got a massive shot in the arm with Spider-Man Homecoming and desperately needed it after Amazing Spider-Man 2. Another character that desperately needed a shot in the arm was Thor. How do you save Thor? Bring in that weird indie director that did the zombie movie, the vampire movie called What We Do in the Shadows. Thor Ragnarok is wonderful.
Oh yeah, and like, even like, I was recently reading interviews with Chris Hemsworth, and how he was saying like he was not happy really with, up to the point of Ragnarok, with the direction his character was taking.
It's okay. We didn't like his character for a while there either.
Oh, I mean, because that was, I think, the thing about him in the first Thor movie that I enjoyed so much, was there was a little bit of comedy. It made sense why certain things were hilarious. But at the same time, you're like, no, like, this guy has the potential to be this incredible god of thunder. And it honestly, you could not even watch Dark World and just pretend it doesn't exist and just watch Ragnarok right after Thor 1. And it feels to me like Ragnarok is the completion of the story arc of Thor 1.
Yeah, you could just not watch Thor the Dark World 2. That's totally fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think this movie, you're right. It breathes fresh air, some fresh air into Thor, either fresh air or brings him back to what the direction they were going to take him anyway. And is, he is kind of this big goof in a lot of ways, but he's also got a kind of an ego on him. He's definitely strong, but he at his core is still a really caring guy.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it makes Thor fun again. I really didn't like Thor the Dark World. I wanted to like Thor in Age of Ultron, but he really didn't get a whole lot to do in that movie other than, hey, trust what Vision's doing. And then has these weird visions about Ragnarok, which doesn't really fit the tone at all of the actual Ragnarok movie.
Absolutely.
Ragnarok showed to people Chris Hemsworth's comedic timing is fantastic. And we've said it before, vastly underrated.
Oh, absolutely.
I think the thing, though, that we don't give Thor Ragnarok nearly enough credit on is the colors. Holy crap, everything pops.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of Marvel movies look very uniform and same. Nothing really stands out. Then comes Thor Ragnarok. Holy crap, it's bright, it's colorful. It's like was a 60s comic. Oh, just like the original Thor.
Yeah, absolutely. It's bright, colorful. I think, and then introducing the Valkyries as a concept is something that it is very important to me, at least. Something that they've kind of ignored in the Thor universe up until this movie. Hela is amazing. Holy crap! What a villain.
I think we're forgetting about the real MVP here. Korg.
Oh, yeah.
Korg. If we get a Korg TV show on Disney Plus, I will be a happy man.
No. I think he needs to
Korg
be
and Meek.
He's
literally
perfect.
call it rock, paper, and scissors.
Oh my gosh. So, fun thing to do. So, you know that the rock, paper, scissors joke he makes? The obvious one. He's like, little rock, paper, scissors humor
There's
for you.
the subtle one, too.
Oh, no. Go watch through the rest of the movie after that. And he makes, I think, like 2 or 3.
No, the one that I like is he tried to start a revolution, and he didn't print enough pamphlets, so paper beat rock.
Yeah.
At the end, he thinks he crushed Meek, so rock beat scissors.
There's a couple really good jokes in there. And that's what I think that this does is it takes its source material, the source material itself, it takes it very seriously, but it doesn't take itself as a movie seriously.
Yeah, it was exactly the fun that Thor needed, and I think other movie studios are seeing that Chris Hemsworth is a fun actor and a good comedic actor. That's why we're seeing him in Men in Black now, I think, was a lot due to Ragnarok, why they really seem to want to keep the Thor franchise going now with Taika Waititi as director. As a fan of one of his movies, What We Do in the Shadows, it was nice to even see him throw out an Easter egg when Korg says something along the lines of, "It's a pitchfork. It's only really good for killing vampires, only if they live in close proximity to another."
Korg's great, honestly.
Like, it's so on the nose that if you haven't seen the movie, you're just like, that's a weird joke. But if you're someone like me that's seen it and loves that movie, it's like, okay, I see you there, Taika.
Yeah, but see, I haven't seen that, but I love that joke because it's just like, well, yeah, they'd have to be in pros. Korg, what are you talking? God, you're so funny.
Seems like you had a very intimate and personal, close relationship with this hammer. Sounds wonderful.
Yes, absolutely. I again, and I know you've heard me say this, and I'm sure the pod has heard me say this already. My one complaint, and it's a nitpick.
Planet Hulk.
Is that now? And we've had this discussion why that'll never happen, and I get it. But if you're gonna bring in if we're gonna talk about Ragnarok, I always have to bring it up because that Planet Hulk storyline is a fantastic. It's in my opinion the best Hulk one besides his fights with Wolverine. But yeah, this movie's colorful. With the whole gripes about Planet Hulk being said, Hulk's fantastic in this movie.
Oh yeah. Well-balanced performance by both Mark Ruffalo and the Hulk. Just a really great performance all around.
Absolutely. And I think it kind of showed us that just because he's Hulk doesn't mean he can't be, quote-unquote, mild-mannered. He can't be funny or whatever. He can still be this big, monstrous being, but still have a personality about him.
Exactly. So Thor Ragnarok really expanded the world on a cosmic level, introduced a amazing visual style and a unique environment. Our next one did very much the same thing, just a very different world, a very different visual style, but nonetheless still very unique. Black Panther. Talk about a sleeper hit that not even Marvel was expecting. Holy crap, did this movie destroy the box office.
Oh, yeah. Which really, really Disney, you didn't know that this was going to be a hit. You
could tell they were not expecting this. It was the same thing as Frozen. They expected it to be a hit, not a $1 billion movie.
No, yeah. So here's the thing, though, is really you're I'm with everybody saying Blade was, is the first black superhero. However, This is the first modern one, and we've never had one done to this scale. So, of course, it's going to be a big deal. Like, come on. But I agree. It definitely a sleeper hit. This had every reason to not be a good movie, but it's actually not bad at all. I enjoy it quite a bit.
Yeah, I think this was the first big step in the right direction of getting villains right. Killmonger
Yes.
is great, but what I love most about Killmonger as a villain is at the end of the day, he actually caused change. He's the first villain I've ever seen in a movie that he actually makes the hero change his mind. At the end,
Yes.
T'Challa's just like, no, Killmonger was right. We have been wrong to shut ourselves out from the rest of the world. And I'm like, dude, yes, way to be a good ruler and accept advice from all circles, even if it's your enemy.
Well, and one of the things I think I like the most about it too, about the movie is Killmonger. Like we've always said, like in wrestling, even the best villains, their plans make sense.
Their
And
motives and their why they're doing what they're doing. You hate it because it's true.
Yeah, you hate it because it's true and how they're going about it. It's not, but they should still be. It should still make you go, oh man, but he does have a point. But he's killing thousands of people. But he has a point.
Yeah. And Killmonger, Killmonger's got a point. But every villain's only as strong as their hero, and T'Challa's a really good hero. And by no means my favorite, but I really liked him. I really like Shuri. Marvel does great supporting characters really well. I like Shuri. I like the Dormo Milaje, his guards. Also, I feel like he doesn't get nearly enough praise in the movie or in the greater MCU, but Andy Serkis's Claw stole the show for me.
He's Andy Serkis in general is always a good.
I love the chase scene of they're in the cars, just like, what is this, a funeral? Play some music.
Yes,
he's like the first villain I've seen that like wants to have fun being a villain. My only complaint is that they killed him off way too soon. He could have been a standalone villain in and of itself.
Yeah, I agree. The big thing too, I think, that makes this movie such a hit is the suit. It would have been very easy to make it very similar to something like an Iron Man suit. But they really go to all lengths to make this thing as different as possible as from anything we've ever seen.
Oh, completely agree. Now, when it comes to sequels, do you think we'll ever see him with the cape?
I
kind of hope we do.
I think we'll see him in the cape in the context of him being in the throne room.
Yeah, I can see it.
I don't think we'll see him with a cape like out and about, because I don't think that quite makes sense for the character that they've built. But I can totally still see him wearing the cape, like at the throne room or walking around the palace in the Black Panther suit. I do like the changes that they make that they make to the suit throughout the movie. I like that the suit evolves with the character,
but in a logical sense. It's not like Captain America, who, as much as he's my favorite Avenger, changes his suit every single movie for no logical reason. It makes sense for Iron Man always upgrading his tech. Captain America, that's always bugged me of, why don't you have the same suit more than once?
Yeah. And it's not like, because sometimes they're more armored, sometimes they're not. It's like, okay, what's your play here, man? Where are you changing? But that's definitely not happening in Black Panther. And to be quite fair, and I might get a little pushback on this, but Black Panther's Killmonger is the first villain for me, first of all, that, he's got a point. But you kind of knew as soon as he, starts taking over the palace, this is only going to end one way. There's no way it doesn't end with either T'Challa or Killmonger getting killed.
Yeah, which their fight, not the second one where T'Challa wins, but like their fight for the throne, any of those scenes are my favorite in the movie. I thought the movie started off pretty slow until we get that first fight between M'Baku and T'Challa for the throne, then I was locked in. That fight is great. The choreography for the fight scenes in general are awesome. That being said, at times the effects got a little bit hokey.
I'll be with you on that, but I think, to me, the story, I was, with how ingrained I was with the story, it didn't take me out too much.
Oh, yeah, it didn't take me out fully, but especially towards the end when you have gold Black Panther versus purple Black Panther, which the colors are only there so you know which one's which. I thought those effects really did not look too great towards the end, but I was willing to overlook it just because it was such a well-told story with such a unique world, such unique characters that I really genuinely wanted to spend more time in.
Yeah, and it actually made me sad that I knew that one of them was going to have to die for this story to conclude, because I really enjoyed Killmonger. I thought...
Well, he might be getting more of him.
No, because he's dead.
The rumor is he signed on for Black Panther 2 somehow.
Maybe... I don't even know. We'll see. That'll be interesting.
That'll be a discussion for another day.
Yeah, how they pull that off. But he is my favorite thing about this movie. It's not necessarily fair because I've always been a Michael B. Jordan fan. I think he's a very underrated actor and is definitely on his way up in the acting world. But yeah.
Well, Black Panther was the final appetizer before the main course, the big one. Well, was the big one until Endgame. Avengers Infinity War. Like the world that was set up in Black Panther? Good, because the final big act finale is going to take place in Wakanda. But the rest of the movie, oh man, it's a thrill ride. I love Infinity War.
Yeah, it's... this is going to be tough for me to say, but it was better than I thought it was going to be.
Really? Did you have low expectations for it or something?
Yes. And you know me. A part of me goes into these movies with low expectations so that, I know if it is even mediocre, I'm like, okay, cool. This wasn't as bad as it could have been. But they really build to the snap very, very well.
Yeah. They build it so well and they tell the story so well that by the end of it, I was like, well, I guess we're not getting the snap. I guess they're going to stop Thanos.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as...
Oh, yeah.
I thought he was going to do the snap, but then Thor comes down, puts the axe in his chest. I was like, all right, I guess that's it. I wonder where we go from here. You should have gone for the head. No! And in that moment, when he snaps his fingers and he goes to the soul world, the whole theater's just like dead silence. Just, wait, what just happened? And it doesn't help that every time I watch it with my parents, my mom goes, so where is he now? When they go to the soul realm and little Gamora's there, I'm just like, I think they're in the soul stone, but I can't guarantee that right now. It's a dream. Yeah. Think of it like platform 9 3/4 from Harry Potter.
Yeah, they're gonna have to, that is definitely something they're gonna have to do in Endgame, is kind of clarify some things. But yeah, no, I think I was pleasantly surprised with how well they built everything. I will say, this movie made me... I wasn't like you, where I was not liking Tony. But, I mean, he definitely wasn't my favorite Avenger, but I didn't, mind him. I don't like him in this movie, and I don't like Star-Lord in this movie. Like, I get emotionally what Star-Lord is going through, but at the same time, dude, you've become a really big dick. Cut it out.
Yeah, I did hate Star-Lord for a good portion after seeing Infinity War, but then I remembered, if Star-Lord really is to blame for all this, don't you think Doctor Strange would have stopped him?
Yeah.
Because Doctor Strange saw the future, which that's a whole weird nitpick of, I don't think Marvel remembered their own continuity, because in Doctor Strange, the Ancient One could see the future up until when she dies. So a sorcerer can't see the future past when they die. And Doctor Strange got snapped. So how does he know which one is the future that worked if he's not in it?
So that would bring the argument then that nobody died due to the snap. They're just trapped in the soul gem. Yes. So, I mean,
which I can see them using that and being like, okay, well, we just got to get the soul gem and open it up so everybody comes back. That's just
we'll get there when we circle back for things to remember. Considering how large the cast is, they do a pretty decent job of balancing out the story. Like the very first Avengers movie had 6 main characters to share screen time with. This has so many more characters, but I feel like everybody has at least a moment or two in the sun of doing something cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
At this point, they're not trying to introduce you to anything new. They're like, well, 21 films in. If you're not on board by now, good luck type of thing.
Yeah, basically. Like, sorry, we've done as much world building as we can. Now it's time to move on with the story we've been hinting at for almost a decade.
Something I like is, by and large, Marvel movies are interconnected. But if you watch just the Avengers movies, like Avengers, Age of Ultron, Infinity War, and then Endgame, just those movies, you can still pretty much follow along with what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. They do a pretty decent job of still keep piecing everything together through just those movies.
Yeah, I really enjoy Infinity War. That being said, I think but at the end of the day, I'm going to enjoy Endgame more because there's not as big of a cast to worry about or divvy up time for. But I still really enjoyed Infinity War. There are some great, amazing moments. It's just a fun time. It doesn't feel like 2.5 hours. It just flies by. It's the first Marvel movie, possibly in the MCU, that I've seen in a while, possibly ever, that felt like it had genuine stakes to it. And I'm looking forward to seeing that continue in Endgame of, like, the dour, we genuinely lost here, guys.
Yeah, and you know me. That's always been my nitpick about some of the a good portion of the Avengers movies is a lot of times it doesn't feel like there's anything at stake, but it definitely, and I think that's why I was pleasantly surprised by Infinity War is that you feel the stakes like incredibly.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, I really enjoyed the characters as always, their chemistry off of each other. I like that there was more or less the 3 main storylines going on with like Thor, Groot, and Rocket. But then you also had the stuff on Earth and then the stuff with Iron Man's squad. I thought that was all pretty well balanced out, and I enjoyed seeing that. And I'll be curious to see how it all comes back together in Endgame. But somehow, this is not the end of Phase 3. We still have 2 more films that have come out. We won't worry about Endgame and Far From Home. But the last 2 movies, Josh and I will each be taking a movie because one of us has seen one and the other one of us has seen the other, and vice versa. So, Josh, you have seen Ant-Man and the Wasp. I have not. So, you have the floor for this one. Tell me about it.
Okay, cool. So, real quick though, before we move on from Infinity War completely, which story arc is your favorite?
Thor.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not actually for Thor, for 2 things with Thor. It's the scene where he's like, Thanos has taken literally everything from me. If he kills me, big whoop. I literally have nothing left. And to me, the other best moment of Infinity War, besides Thor's entrance into Wakanda, that I think is the best scene in the whole movie. The second best, I think, is the sacrifice by Groot to become the handle for Stormbreaker.
First of all, Stormbreaker is literally my favorite hammer. It is my favorite Marvel weapon. It is so cool looking.
Really? I still have a preference for Mjolnir, but Stormbreaker is pretty awesome too. But that scene where Groot, they're like, it needs a handle, and Groot is more or less becoming a mature adult for the first time again, and puts his fingers on it, more or less burning himself in the process. And it's like, I am worthy. Because that's something people are kind of overlooking. Groot is worthy to lift the hammer.
Yep. Oof.
Yeah, that was my favorite of the 3 of them.
He's in the dwarf is awesome. I forget his name, but it's Peter Dinklage, and I always enjoy him.
Yeah, Peter Dinklage is always great.
Absolutely. So, back to Ant-Man and the Wasp. So timeline-wise, this happens about basically the same time as Infinity War. Which is why Ant-Man is not in Infinity War.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the end credit scene plays a lot into what is to come in Endgame. So
Yeah, I'm sure we'll
basically,
address that in things to know.
yes, exactly. But so basically, the story is Scott is. It's like I think it's like a year or something like that after Civil War. And because he's on house arrest for 2 years because he broke parole. He went out of the country, and by showing the Ant-Man suit to the world, and showing tech that shouldn't exist and that violates the Geneva Convention or something like that.
Sokovia Accords.
Jacoby Accords. There it is. He's basically like part of his plea deal was you've got to completely ostracize Hank Pym and Hope and never talk to them ever again, and you have to be on house arrest for 2 years, basically. So, like, 2 years, dude. This is a long time. And so we come in on the last week of his house arrest, which is that's where the movie starts. And so all this stuff is happening. You have a character named Ghost who can phase through things, but it's like it's not by will sometimes. Basically, same kind of mistakes were made by Hank Pym when they were tampering with the quantum realm, and basically his coworker, it went wrong and there was an explosion, and the guy's daughter didn't want to leave her dad in his time of need, and so the explosion killed her mom and dad, but left her permanently damaged. Basically, her cells disintegrate and then reanimate constantly, so she's basically always in pain, which is rough. I think the weakness though is the villain, because the only reason she's doing the stuff that she's doing to Hank Pym and Scott is just to get a cure for herself. So it's kind of, it's almost like, well, Hank, just help her out, dude. All this could be just fixed by, hey, look, you don't have to kidnap me for me to help you. We can just work this out. But no, Hank's got to have an ego. But basically, through shenanigans, Scott gets out of house arrest towards the end of the movie, blah, blah, blah. The big story that's being told is so when Scott is told that he can't talk to Hank or Hope anymore, it actually goes both ways. And Hank and Hope had basically ostracized him because he went to New York. He went to Germany for Civil War without telling them, and took the suit without telling them. So they're mad at him for basically ruining everything, and now they have to be on the run all the time because technically speaking, what they were making shouldn't exist. So there's that story going throughout the movie of redemption of that friendship and relationship. There's a really sweet moment between Hank and Hope of where not Hank, I'm sorry, Scott and Hope, where he's like, well, would you have come to Germany if I have asked you? And she goes, well, I guess we'll never know, but I'll tell you this, you wouldn't have gotten caught if I'd gone with you. So I mean, it's a well done movie. I wouldn't say it's an A, but it's definitely a B, because I think you and I had the same opinion of the first Ant-Man, in that it was a good time. It wasn't like the best Avengers movie or Marvel movie, but it was a good time.
Completely skippable though.
Yeah, and really outside of some of the details that happen in the basic for the quantum realm and for the end credit scene, you could probably skip this as well. They go to the quantum realm and basically get Hank's wife back. So there's that small little detail.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll be coming back up again for our things to know for Endgame section.
Yeah, we'll see. So anyway, moving on to, but yeah,
the movie happened, but you could probably watch a highlight video and get the same kind of feel from it.
Yeah, I've always kind of felt like Ant-Man was okay, but it was clearly never the MCU's top priority. He's not going to be one that they.
Yeah.
He's, to put it in wrestling terms again, he's never going to be the top guy. He's always going to be your consistent, solid, middle of the pack guy that you can rely on.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is, and personally, I like the Ant-Man movies because I like Paul Rudd a lot, and I love his comedic timing and what he brings to the character. So, but I mean, I'll always watch Paul Rudd in pretty much anything.
Yeah, eventually I'll get around to seeing Ant-Man and the Wasp. It took me a while to see the first Ant-Man, just because I always feel like I can kind of just cliff notes whatever happened in that movie, and it's not going to be a huge impact on the greater MCU. That being said, there are some big things that I'm sure we'll double back on for things to catch up for Endgame that happen in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Finally, the most recent MCU movie before Endgame, the one that I have seen, but Josh has not, Captain Marvel.
You say that with such gusto.
Yeah, it's been a while. Maybe Iron Man 3, since I walked out of a Marvel movie so disappointed. I really wanted to like this movie. I know you and I talked about it a lot before the movie came out, that the trailers just really weren't winning us over. Whether it was just kind of bland visuals, not really getting a clear picture of what the story was. Well, having seen the movie, now I know why the trailers were like that, because having seen the movie, I still don't know what the actual objective of the movie was. I know what happened in the movie, but in terms of actual character growth, what happened for a narrative, I genuinely can't remember. It's really forgettable, very kind of disjointed story. It's all over the place. I'm all for, and I want more female empowerment superhero movies, but I also want them done well. Wonder Woman worked because it was done well. This at times just feels like, well, we got to have some really great big girl power moment, which, if it serves the narrative, is great. But at times, it just was like, here's your big moment, but it never felt very earned. There's that shot in the trailer where it shows different scenes of her standing up through different points in her life, of when she was a kid, when she's a pilot, and now she's standing up now. That would have been a great emotional moment had those flashbacks actually happened in the movie, of showing her when she's a little kid or a fighter pilot. They show them very briefly, but there isn't that built-in backstory. With Wonder Woman, I know I'm going to be comparing it to Wonder Woman a lot, but with Wonder Woman, we spend a lot of time with Diana before she becomes Wonder Woman. She's an interesting and complex character who undergoes a journey. She learns things. I genuinely feel like Carol, as a character, she unlocks powers, but doesn't change as a person. And that's frustrating to me, because I wanted to like Captain Marvel, the character. I was super hyped at the end of Infinity War, seeing the end credits of like, oh, Captain Marvel's going to come in. I don't know that much about the character, but I'm super excited to see how she's going to save the day. And I know a lot of people are pointing the finger at Brie Larson. I don't think it's her. This movie had like 4 or 5 writers, and you can tell. This thing, you could tell it's too many cooks. It has too many people's flavors in this. It's like throwing chocolate pie with strawberry pie, with cinnamon, with salt. It's a whole bunch of different things that individually could work. Also, they do some things with the scrolls that I'm not a huge fan of, but that's really nitpicking, so I want to give this the benefit of the doubt. There's just too much happening with this. And I was talking to Heather, who's more or less my gauge of knowledgeable, but more on the casual side. Like, she knows stuff that I've taught her over time. So she knows more than the average bear, but is still kind of the casual movie fan. She comes out of it and goes, I was so lost. I was so confused. Doctor Strange made more sense to me than this. The narrative's kind of all over the place. Yeah, if you're saying Doctor Strange made more sense, you've made some mistakes in your movie. I think Captain Marvel will be much better in Endgame in a group dynamic. And I think with a more clear direction for her next outing, I could like the character of Captain Marvel, but it was a case of too many cooks for this movie. Just let there be one director, one writer, and that's really what you need. Just clear vision, and yeah, the rest of the cast is fine. Really solid cast, except for Captain Marvel, but I don't put that on Brie Larson. I put that on what she was given. Also, we find out how Nick Fury lost his eye, and we jokingly said it on the show, and I was pissed when it actually happened in the movie. I was like, we were joking. We didn't actually expect you to do it that way.
Yeah, I'm really sad.
Now, when I go back and watch Winter Soldier, he's like, last time I trusted somebody, I lost an eye. Now that scene rings hollow, knowing he lost it to a freaking flirkin.
Yeah. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, so I guess it's no surprise as we segue into our favorites and least favorite films of Phase 3 that by far my least favorite film of Phase 3 is Captain Marvel.
That's fair. And I can't say that because I haven't seen it. So I'm going to say Civil War.
Yeah, I kind of figured you'd go with that. If I had a runner-up, this movie's not bad, but it is very forgettable, and that's Doctor Strange. I put that lower on the list than Guardians 2.
I would agree with that.
It's fine. It's definitely a big disparity between Captain Marvel and Doctor Strange. But yeah, Doctor Strange is just meh, whereas Captain Marvel once is enough for me. On the flip side, though, Josh, what's your favorite film of Phase 3?
Thor Ragnarok.
Okay. Big shocker here. I'm sure everyone at home will be surprised about this. Spider-Man Homecoming, my favorite film of Phase 3. Yeah. I put it as my number 2 favorite film in the MCU so far. I love this movie so much, and the more I watch it, the more I just pick up on little details that make me love Tom Holland's Spider-Man even more. Just love the film, the direction. It's great. I love it so much. Now, Endgame is here. Whether you like it or not, you can run from it, fear it, but darkness comes all the same, or whatever Thanos says in the commercial. Let's go through these movies, break down the things that we think you're going to want to remember for Endgame. More so than any other phase, you're going to want to remember these movies, because these are the ones, these are the pitches that set you up for that one down the middle that you're really going to want to lay into. It's a baseball analogy that got away from me, but you know what I mean. Civil War. There's a lot here, guys.
I think the biggest thing is that Tony can be emotionally driven, like in a bad way.
I think the big things to take away are obviously the team is split. Tony and Steve have not talked. They're not on speaking terms.
Oh, true.
The big thing to me, obviously this I'm sure will be a big moment, is at the end when Tony is fighting Cap. He's like, that shield doesn't belong to you. So Cap throws down the shield. Cap is without his shield in Endgame. He didn't have it in Infinity War. So obviously I think that's something to remember, is I'm sure Cap is getting his shield back somehow.
Well,
also,
yeah, it's in the trailer.
Yeah, but we don't know how, and I'm sure there's going to be an emotional moment connected to it somehow of reconciliation between Iron Man and Cap to lead up to that moment. However, piggybacking off the shield thing, in Civil War, it's a 2-on-1 handicap match between Winter Soldier and Cap versus Iron Man, and in that scene, the shield is being tossed willy-nilly between Captain America and the Winter Soldier. As has been the case through all 3 Captain America movies, Bucky has wielded the shield at least once, so it continues to foreshadow him being the new Captain America.
Absolutely, and I think, we mentioned this earlier. If they're going to if they're going to pull the trigger on that, they need to give us more of something to like about Bucky. A personality, it would be great.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what else there is. Maybe Baron Zemo could still make an appearance.
No, doesn't.
He's not dead.
No, doesn't he kill himself?
No, because remember, Black Panther stops him. He's like, the living are not dead, are not done with you yet. He catches the bullet. He goes into S.H.I.E.L.D. custody.
Oh, you're right. He could, if he's not snapped, play a role.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he makes a return appearance. But yeah, the whole fractured team thing, Rhodey kind of being able to walk, the cell phone that was reintroduced in Infinity War from Cap to Iron Man of like, if you ever need me, just call on this old flip phone because that's all I know how to work.
Yeah. It's a fractured team, and really, even going into into Infinity War, they're still quite fractured.
Yeah, and again, Iron Man's fault.
Yes.
I feel like there's more, but I'm forgetting more stuff. So, Doctor Strange, what do you got?
I got not really anything, because I mean, this basically anything we needed to keep in mind is really completed in Infinity War.
Oh, I forgot about a big thing from Civil War. Like a really big thing that I'm not seeing a lot of people talk about.
Oh?
Barf.
What?
So at the very beginning of Civil War, there's that scene of young Iron Man talking to his parents before they leave for the trip. And they're all in those glasses, those augmented reality glasses.
Yes.
And the Russos have said in interviews, we have plans in the future for that technology. Could that be a human substitute for the Reality Stone?
Yeah, I've heard that. Really, I think that maybe, you could have a scene where you can train your Avengers using those, but I do think there's the potential to use that as a way to trick Thanos.
Yeah, the Russos are smart. Everything they have incorporated comes back in some form or another, so don't sleep on barf. It's not sanitary.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, going back to Doctor Strange, the Time Stone, really, that's just more or less what was introduced in Doctor Strange, was the green Time Stone.
Yeah, there's really not much here that doesn't really get fulfilled or really added on until in Infinity War.
Yeah. Guardians 2, you got anything?
I think it'd be important to keep in mind that Star-Lord is a Celestial.
Not anymore.
No, that's right. He gave that up.
Yeah, he gave that up to be a human, and he's like, what's wrong with that?
Yes. Okay, never mind. Well, honestly, that might be important. Maybe he goes to pick up a stone and it almost destroys him because he gave up that part of himself.
Well, he's dusted right now, so...
I know. I'm aware. That's fine, though. I mean, but you get my point.
Which, that's still one of my biggest gripes, is that he got dusted because he should have been left alive to deal with the consequences of his actions.
Yes.
Giving him extra motivation.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
On the surface, Spider-Man Homecoming, you would think doesn't, but I think there's more there than we think.
Okay. Because he's dusted.
Yes, but the one that we always talk about is the Avengers Tower is being sold in Spider-Man. I still am under the impression that that's going to turn into the Fantastic Four's Baxter Building.
I can see that.
Or Oscorp, but I'm still sticking with my guns, Fantastic Four. Just my conspiracy theory. However, the big finale of Spider-Man Homecoming is Vulture hijacking Stark's plane. Before it takes off, Happy Hogan is doing an inventory. And he's like, Thor's magic belt, something we've never seen before. So that could be something to keep in mind. But he also says Cap's new shield.
Oh. Okay.
Will Cap be getting a new shield in Endgame?
And what will that look like?
Yeah, so I think that's a line that was just kind of thrown out there in passing, but could still pay off in Endgame.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's just something that kind of goes over people's heads, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's included in some capacity. Thor Ragnarok. Quite a bit, I'd imagine, actually.
Yeah, I think the limits of
of Thor's actual power now that he actually has the electricity, the lightning. I think they're only scraping the surface on those. I think it's important to keep in mind that there's wormholes leading to other places. I think that could potentially somehow play a part. I'm trying to think. Valkyrie is not dusted, which is
No, she is in Endgame. Not going to spoilers, but one of the TV spots and one of the posters confirms that she is alive and did not get dusted.
Yes, so
I'm still waiting on Korg.
Well, I mean, technically speaking, he could just hit the ground too hard and be dusted. Get it? Because he's rock. Anyway, oof.
At the end, that leads right into Infinity War. Thanos boarding the Asgardian ship and killing half the Asgardians.
But like that definitely still is playing more into Infinity War.
Yeah, which we'll get there. Yeah. Anything else? Maybe the Grandmaster comes back in some capacity.
Maybe potentially. I think the big thing to take from this is it seems like Thor and Loki are finally on the same page.
Yes, before Loki died.
Well, yeah, leading into Infinity War.
Yeah. Which leads us into Black Panther. Off the top of my head, I really can't think of too much.
I can't really think of anything either. Because who's not dusted? It's Panther's dusted.
Okoye is not dusted. M'Baku is not dusted.
I think that they have potential to play a decent part.
Shuri has been dusted. The trailers confirmed that for us,
which is sad. But yeah, no, not really much. It's not going to play a whole part now that a good chunk of that cast is dusted.
Yeah. So that leads us to Infinity War. Everything.
Yep. I would literally everything's important in this movie.
Yeah.
I'm considering going back and rewatching Infinity War before I go watch Endgame.
Yeah, this is like part 1 and part 2 type thing. There's everything in Infinity War I'm sure will come back in some capacity.
Yes.
So yeah, it's too hard to narrow it down to stuff, but
yeah.
Just all of Infinity War.
Yes. So the big takeaway from Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Quantum Realm.
The Quantum Realm, yes. But the end credit scene or mid-credit scene is Scott, Hope, Hank, and now Hank's wife, whose name I'm blanking on. Janet are all running a test on a miniature version of the machine that gets them to the quantum realm to get healing particles, because there's particles in the quantum realm you can use to actually legitimately heal superpowered people, like on an atomic level, which is really cool. But the big thing is, so they send Scott down to get the particles, and then whoever is outside that realm hits a button to let him back up. But as soon as they send him down, the snap happens. So going into Endgame, Ant-Man is stuck in the quantum realm.
Yep.
Which makes his appearance even crazier.
Yes. So how does he come back? How does the quantum realm impact the rest of the Avengers? How does that factor into their greater plan? Be aware of what the quantum realm is, how it can impact the story overall. Which leads us to Captain Marvel. Not a whole lot here, actually. Just more be familiar with the character of Captain Marvel, how powerful she is, and what her capabilities are. And then her end credit scene more or less lines up with the end credit scene of Infinity War, of the pager. So it's basically just the Avengers got the pager and now have the page from Captain Marvel. She's there now. That's about it.
Oh, cool. All right, fun.
Nothing else from Captain Marvel that I could think of. Any other ones that we may have missed?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. Really, honestly, just watch Infinity War. I think all the information you really need to know is there.
Half the universe is dead.
Yeah, I think all the stuff we're mentioning from Phase 3 movies are kind of things that could potentially maybe I think maybe just a cameo level.
Make sure you go back and watch John Wick.
Yes. Wait, why?
Because John Wick is going to jump in before the grand finale, put on a quantum realm suit, kill Thanos for killing his dog.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And just know that Ant-Man's going to come out of the quantum realm and he's going to shrink down really small.
Nope.
And I love that I sent you that post of the Ant-Man meme stopped as soon as the spoiler talk started of like, hey, don't spoil the movie.
Yeah, I doubt that's where they're going to be headed.
Here's the thing, and I saw this posted somewhere. He could literally go into any other orifice, and it would be more damaging than up the one that the memes are about.
Literally, go in his ear, aim for the head.
Go in his mouth, his nose, anything except for that.
No. But yeah, I'm so excited to see this movie. I don't think it's hyperbole at all to say this is one of the, if not the biggest movie of all time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just excited to be in the crowd for this. I love that type of crowd energy.
At least like the biggest superhero movie, at the very least. But
oh, absolutely.
It definitely has. This is 10 years worth of storytelling that these movies have legitimately impacted our generation, at the generation before us, and the current generation coming up. Like they've really worked hard for this, which is why some of the interviews that we've seen as far as the Avengers cast interacting with Brie Larson is low key kind of a big deal. There's a comment that Don Cheadle makes is like, we've built this world. All she's got to do is not screw it up.
Yeah, basically. All these newcomers.
Yeah.
Well, I'm super hyped. I'm ready to see this finally. I can't believe it's finally here. So yeah, I'm just hyped. What do you guys think? What are some important takeaways to take out of Phase 3? What's your favorite and least favorite films of Phase 3? Let us know. We love interacting with you guys. And if you like what you hear and you want to hear more, subscribe to us on whatever audio channel you're listening to us on, whether that be YouTube, Google Podcasts, iTunes, whatever else. And of course, subscribe to us on the YouTube channel at Uncharted Media. And as always, stay sharp, movie guys and gals.